The story opens inside a crowded cafe, where the protagonist casually introduces himself as the everyday noise of people talking and typing fills the background. Nearby, someone taps away on a laptop and reveals that he is a web novelist, struggling with crushing writer's block, his deadline looming closer by the second. At another table, a young man in a tracksuit sits quietly with his head resting on his hand, staring at his screen. Nervous energy builds as he starts organizing unused apps on his phone just to pass the time, until his finger pauses over a strange treasure chest icon on his tablet, unknowingly setting off something far bigger than he expects. An unfamiliar app suddenly catches his attention, and he tries to remember when he ever downloaded it. Without warning, the chest twists into something alive, splitting open into a monstrous mouth and whipping out its tongue like a living creature. The ominous Godmaker logo appears, announcing the arrival of something dangerous and unknown. Elsewhere, someone notices a lone ant crawling across rocky ground, while frustration erupts over a game map so distorted and unreadable that it feels impossible to understand. Hesitating only briefly, the young man finally presses the screen. As he leans closer in concentration, the narrator warns that what follows will be complicated. An ant crawls towards someone's ear, and the narrator begins explaining the chain of events that led to a sudden hiatus. In the darkness, redayed insect monsters explode from the shadows and swarm forward in a brutal assault. One lone figure stands atop a mountain of fallen creatures, refusing to retreat as wave after wave charges in. Under the night sky, Ilshin raises his finger toward the enemy, divine energy crackling with electricity around his glowing hand. With fierce determination, he unleashes a devastating technique that tears through the advancing monsters. Explosions of power ripple across the battlefield as demons and insect creatures are obliterated. A massive beast bursts from the ground in a furious roar, while a horned monster stares in shock at a smoking crater left behind by overwhelming force. Floating in a cosmic void, a glowing divine symbol erupts from Ilshin, sending demonic creatures recoiling in terror. Firestorms surge forward, swallowing entire hordes in blazing waves. Ilshin walks calmly through roaring flames, embers drifting around him beneath the endless stars. He activates a radiant healing ring on his finger, restoring himself before boldly facing a colossal dragon surrounded by fire. With a glowing blue sword in hand, he charges forward and declares himself a web novelist, as monstrous beasts roar and rush toward him. Energy blasts tear through the chaos, though the narrator admits that everything unfolding may be difficult to fully understand. The scene abruptly shifts to a quiet, dim room, where a hiatus announcement appears on a laptop screen. The protagonist is forced to pause his work due to a personal crisis, and his phone floods with angry and disappointed comments from readers. Chat messages confirm the break as the webtoon goes on hold. On the smartphone screen, the monstrous treasure chest reappears as the Godmaker app officially begins its introduction, announcing the start of serialization even as frustration erupts across the community. Then the world changes overnight. Gates and dungeons suddenly appear across the globe, releasing monsters that plunge humanity into chaos. Yet within the disaster comes opportunity, as people gain supernatural powers and harvest energy and materials from defeated creatures. Hunters emerge and are ranked from SS class down to G class, with G class being no stronger than ordinary civilians. Still, hope grows as artifacts appear, and whispers spread about a hero who might save the world, especially since class upgrades after evaluation are incredibly rare. A schoolgirl pauses before a recruitment poster calling for a savior, her serious expression reflecting the weight of the moment. Bathed in sunlight, she reviews documents and submits a request for re-evaluation, hoping to push her lightning ability beyond its limits. The results confirm an AB+ rating for lightning powers, yet she stands alone in the lobby, frustrated and wondering if her efforts will ever be enough. Moments of awkward comedy unfold as misunderstandings arise in the hallway. A nervous boy in a blue tracksuit tries to explain himself, only to be met with suspicious glares. The girl charges her fist with crackling lightning, ready to fight, just as the boy's phone rings and he rushes off pretending to take a call. A receptionist announces the next evaluation, startling a student who scrambles forward. As the sun sets, the girl reviews 2 evaluation reports, learning that Sunmir's lightning ability has only reached B+ class. She clenches the papers in frustration, questioning whether anyone can truly break past their limits. Suddenly her phone rings with an emergency alert. An A-class thorn bull and soul monster have appeared, calling for high-ranking hunters to respond immediately. The next great battle is about to begin. The sudden appearance of the thorn bull sends a shock through everyone nearby. The massive monster storms through a city park, swinging its enormous weapon as civilians scream and scatter in every direction. With no hunters in sight to stop it, smoke fills the streets as people flee in blind panic. A man desperately pulls a terrified child through the chaos, while a girl crashes hard onto the pavement, and a nearby boy stares in frozen horror. Another young man kneels beside an injured friend, shaking as he checks if they are still alive. One person throws themselves in front of another, shielding them as danger looms closer with every second. The towering beast lets out a thunderous roar, freezing 2 companions in sheer terror. Red energy erupts behind them as someone shields a crying girl, and in the next instant, lightning crashes down from the sky. A young man steps forward to protect her, while electric energy explodes through the air. A determined girl charges across the glowing, shattered cityscape as the horned monster advances, forcing two frightened students to stumble backward along the ruined street. Shock spreads across their faces when they realize their attack has done nothing. Suddenly the girl descends from above, crackling with electricity, and slams a devastating strike into the massive spiked beast. Lightning surges violently as another explosive burst of power follows, and one figure launches forward at unbelievable speed. Through the smoke, a schoolgirl in a motorcycle helmet anxiously searches for signs of victory, only for a massive shadow with glowing red eyes to rise from the dust before her. Fear hits like a wave. A monstrous mouth full of razor-sharp fangs tears through the smoke, followed by a furious roar that shakes the street. A girl crosses her arms just as a crushing force slams into her body, sending her flying across the pavement. A red-haired girl smashes down with a fierce counterattack, cracking the ground beneath the horned monster. The street splits apart as another girl crashes hard, while the helmeted woman struggles to stand amid swirling debris. Bruised and shaken, the schoolgirl tries to rise after being completely overwhelmed by the A-class beast. Someone spots two survivors hiding among the rubble, but before relief can settle in, the helmeted figure spins around in horror as the reedied monster roars right behind them. At sunset, one character clutches another in a trembling embrace, whispering that they are safe now, even as danger still hangs thick in the air. Sensing the next attack coming, the helmeted woman stiffens with fear. A girl shields a boy and screams for him to run as destruction spreads through the street. Another woman urges everyone to escape while debris collapses around them. Refusing to back down, the girl plants her feet as the ground cracks open and a massive demon charges straight toward her. Its roar dominates the city, shaking windows and hearts alike. She gathers crackling energy between her hands, determined to hold the monster back, but suddenly stares in shock as her power begins to fade. The towering beast looms over her as she cries out in terror. From the shadows, glowing eyes pierce through her cracked helmet. Dropping to her knees, trembling and broken, she screams for her parents as tears stream down her face. Among the ruined city, she sobs in despair, then clenches her fists and swears vengeance as someone stands over her. Grief and rage explode within her, as she vows to kill everyone responsible. While another figure silently watches, she desperately cries out son Mary's name, only to be met with a stern warning that revenge will lead to ruin. Gritting her teeth, she rejects the words and gathers what strength she has left. Energy flares wildly as she refuses to accept defeat. A devastating special move erupts from her body, light and sparks spiraling in every direction. A psychic force surges through her as she rises into the air, lightning exploding around her. Blue electricity wraps around her form as she screams under the overwhelming power. The lightning intensifies, tearing apart the ground as she unleashes everything she has. Storm clouds gather in an instant, and a colossal bolt of blue lightning crashes down onto the street, releasing a blinding wave of destruction. When the smoke finally clears, the Thorn Bull lies defeated. Cheers erupt from the crowd as the B-class hunter known as the Lightning Empress stands victorious after bringing down an A-class monster. The girl stares in disbelief, realizing she has surpassed her limits. The helmeted woman looks down at her hands in shock as mysterious energy swirls around her fingers. 3 survivors bow deeply in gratitude, thanking her for saving their lives. A man and a child express tearful thanks as the ruined city settles into uneasy silence. Ilshin cradles a young girl in relief, shielding her as people gather around them. The helmeted girl steps forward toward a damaged building, debris floating eerily in the air, then suddenly panics when she realizes someone has uncovered her secret identity. With renewed fire in his eyes, Ilshin raises his finger and unleashes his signature technique. In that moment, the character understands that the mysterious voice guiding them belongs to the figure standing before them. Later, the young man gently carries the little girl as they head home together. He remarks that the nearby bridge is infamous for suicides. A figure stands beside an SOS lifeline booth, choosing life instead of despair. By the riverside that night, the young man stares at his phone, reflecting on everything that has gone wrong. In his mind, a monstrous presence looms over him, pushing him to the edge. He glares at the screen, blaming it for his suffering, then storms onto his balcony and shouts at it in frustration. The story then shifts into a flashback from a few days earlier. Inside a warm, cozy cafe, people laugh and chat casually. A hand hovers over a laptop keyboard, trembling with hesitation. Ilshin sits alone at his desk, slumped in exhaustion, unable to write as his deadline approaches. He stares blankly at his screen, accomplishing nothing. Nervous and restless, he considers organizing the unused apps on his phone, until his finger pauses over a strange treasure chest icon. Confused by an app he does not remember downloading, he stares at his phone just as the chest suddenly opens wide, revealing sharp fangs and a long, writhing tongue, marking the beginning of everything that follows. A dark, ominous interface suddenly fills the screen, announcing the activation of the Godmaker system. At the same moment, an ant appears on the rocky ground, and a frustrated player glares at a glitched game display, where the text is warped beyond recognition. The young man stares at his phone, torn between fear and curiosity, then watches as the pixelated ant collapses and dies. Without warning, a heavy coin slams onto the screen, making him flinch. A massive golden coin shoots toward him, followed by another bursting from the laptop display itself. Before he can process what is happening, a message appears, declaring that number 1 has been crushed to death, and a dark god coin has dropped as a reward. He grips the cold metal in his hand as a chilling welcome message invites him into dark power. Reeling in disbelief, the protagonist realizes he may have gained a hunter's ability. The narrator reflects on how society has adapted to strange and supernatural events over the past 20 years. The scene shifts to an office building, where number 369 is called aloud. Laughter breaks out as one man covers his face in embarrassment. A woman announces that the test confirms an aptitude for abilities, and Ilshin freezes when he notices something unexpected. For a moment, he imagines himself as a heroic figure surrounded by admirers, claiming he does not even need to be top-ranked. Desperately, he hopes for a strong result, willing to abandon everything to become a hunter. The receptionist cheerfully announces a G-class result to the blushing boy in the tracksuit. His face drains of color as disbelief sets in. The woman points to the document, explaining the details while he studies it closely, realizing he has no special abilities at all. Still clinging to hope, Ilshin asks about registering for a G-class license, only to be stunned when told it costs $280. He immediately refuses, declaring it pointless since no dungeons exist for his class. Exhausted and weighed down by reality, he decides to go home and finish his work. A sense of foreboding lingers as tension builds, and his eyes suddenly widen in horror as a terrifying realization hits him. Late at night, he sits alone in a dim room, frustrated by his inability to write. Holding a remote, he hesitates, then watches a news broadcast announcing that an S-class hunter has cleared the disaster-class Dark Dragon's dungeon. A confident man in a suit adjusts his tie in triumph. Sitting on his bed, Ilshin quietly reflects on humanity's rapid progress. Soon, an advertisement appears for a highly sought-after product endorsed by a powerful hunter, with a woman cheerfully promoting a special cream for dungeon protection. Silence follows as an important term is revealed. Ilshin checks his phone anxiously, overwhelmed by non-stop news of successful hunters. Frustrated, he lies back on his bed with his laptop, deciding to rest and clear his mind before writing again. At 2:20 a.m. an alarm blares, jolting him awake. 2 minutes later, his phone rings sharply through the darkness. He lies there staring at the ceiling, thoughts racing, before the ringing startles him upright. Elsewhere, alarms echo through the night as a powerful martial symbol bursts into existence, signaling something hidden has been unleashed. A scoreboard flashes with censored rankings, stirring confusion. In the darkness of his room, Ilshin stares at his glowing phone as gold coins suddenly explode into the air around him. A pixelated ant with a glowing halo floats lifelessly above his finger, while another presence watches in silence. He gasps in shock, gripping his phone as coins scatter across the floor. A furious challenge echoes as the golden pieces rain down dramatically. Morning sunlight pours over a modern building, restoring a sense of calm. Back in his room, the boy collapses onto his bed in exhaustion. When he wakes, he sees gold coins scattered everywhere, and realizes many stacks are missing. Sitting on the floor, he notices the coin in his hand carries an incredibly high value. His heart pounds as he examines it in disbelief. Suddenly, his phone lights up with a message announcing that the nameless god has unlocked the god's shop. Stunned, Ilshin stares at the glowing treasure chest icon, hesitating to open it. With a confident grin, he points forward as if daring fate itself, then slams his finger down on an S-rank card. At that same time, a grand hallway fills with distinguished political leaders and elite hunters. An official announces that Korea has unlocked the hunter shop, sending excitement through the conference room. Businessmen whisper eagerly about acquiring rare skills and powerful items. Guards stand as grand doors swing open, allowing sharply dressed figures to stride inside with dramatic presence. A composed hunter steps forward to be formally introduced as the one who unlocked the shop, followed by an S-class psychic brought in to explain the phenomenon. They are escorted into a guarded office where a stern man waits behind a massive desk, silently weighing the consequences of this breakthrough. Outside, dignitaries gather as officials declare the beginning of a critical meeting. Elsewhere, excited men announce the same news in disbelief. As discussions erupt, someone formally requests the activation of the hunter shop, shocking everyone present. Determination flashes across the young man's face as he pours energy into a glowing orb, triggering a powerful surge. A violent gust of wind blasts through the room, sending suited officials flying while one figure remains standing. Chaos follows as people scramble to their feet, checking for injuries. Just as confusion settles, someone interrupts the tense meeting. Two men rush to search the area, but despite the destruction moments earlier, they find no trace of what caused it, leaving the room heavy with unanswered questions and rising fear. A man in glasses calmly explains that only the person who activated the shop can see it. Beside him, a composed woman closes her eyes and focuses, activating her psychic ability to perceive what another person is viewing. Instantly, three businessmen gasp in shock as a glowing presence appears before them. A massive holographic shop interface unfolds in the air, revealing rows of powerful weapons, divine items, and rare equipment beyond anything they imagined. The digital display shows countless legendary items, yet the total gold balance reads 0. Two men stare in disbelief at the treasures on offer, while in a nearby office, businessmen whisper excitedly about the outrageous cost of the lightning god's blessing skill, ultimately agreeing it is still worth the price. The meeting is abruptly interrupted when a man demands everyone's attention. The official at the desk issues a grave warning, insisting the entire operation remain strictly confidential, as the fate of the nation depends on it. It is declared that at least 2 S-class hunters will be assigned as guards. Throughout it all, a quiet woman watches with unreadable calm. Meanwhile, a system notification flashes on Ilshin's phone announcing that God's shop has been unlocked. He hesitates before the glowing treasure chest icon, then notices something important on the screen. With a confident grin, he taunts fate itself and slams an S-rank card down, spending 100 coins to activate the shop. A single coin vanishes in a flash of light, leaving the rest scattered around him. Staring at the strange golden pieces, Ilshin wonders if he might gain creation-type powers like the heroes in novels. When the shop interface opens fully, his eyes widen at the absurdly high prices. Confused and overwhelmed, he scrolls through the bizarre menu as numbers climb rapidly on his phone. Finally, exhausted, he collapses onto his bed, groaning about how long it took to earn 300 coins compared to the ridiculous costs of divine items. Suddenly, the interface highlights a mysterious product on its own. Ilshin blinks in surprise as the screen prompts a purchase. Unsure why, yet unable to resist, he taps it and buys something called the Blind God's Eyes Authority. The moment he confirms it, his vision plunges into darkness. Panicking, he tumbles backward off the bed as his phone slips from his hand and clatters onto the floor. Blind and disoriented, he scrambles desperately, fearing he has permanently lost his sight. His heart pounds as he searches for his phone to call for help. Then, in a flash, his vision returns. Breathing heavily, he kneels by the bed, staring at the glowing screen in disbelief. Strange letters and symbols now make perfect sense to him. He scrolls through a list of godly items, chuckling at their dramatic names, until he freezes upon realizing that this situation mirrors the stories he once read. Sitting on the floor, he reads about rigid hunter class rankings and rare exceptions, wondering if his own fate might be changing. Curiosity burning, he continues browsing until a new skill appears. God's crushing index finger. His eyes light up. With only 1 gold coin left, he doesn't hesitate. The coin glows and dissolves into swirling energy as the purchase completes. A divine power floods into him, and a radiant hand appears in his mind, raising its index finger in triumph. Ilshin stares at his own finger, stunned. A sudden mechanical beep breaks the silence, as the air conditioner hums to life. Lights flash from a nearby security device, as if responding to unseen force. Experimenting, Ilshin points at the appliance. In the next instant, an explosive surge of power erupts. The air ripples violently as his finger thrusts forward like a martial arts strike. He points at the television, at his desk, at his laptop, unleashing invisible blasts that shake the room. Only then does he realize he is still holding a remote control, stunned by how casually he nearly destroyed everything around him. Leaning back in disbelief, he mutters that at least the power cannot magically write his novel for him. His phone suddenly vibrates on the bed, heart racing. He answers a call from the person in charge. Nervously at first, then excitedly, he talks about how much he enjoyed the previous feedback. He freezes when he learns that his casual story about crushing an ant has unexpectedly gone viral. Praise pours in, and he eagerly asks which parts readers liked most, only to be jolted when serious news follows. There are no more chapters left. Panic grips him as he remembers the looming deadline. Someone urgently asks for 2 more days to finish the work. Encouragement follows, filled with unexpected enthusiasm and belief in him. Fueled by renewed determination, Ilshin grabs his phone and opens the mysterious game again. Cryptic messages appear as a coin floats beside him. He presses down with his finger, crushing a digital ant, and instantly receives another Dark God coin. Excited, he summons a pile of gold coins onto the wooden floor. They burst outward in a glittering cascade, and one large coin marked with the number 100 lands with a sharp spin, shining under the light. Sitting on the bed, the protagonist watches in awe as glowing coins drift together and merge before his eyes. His hand closes around the final 100-coin piece, marking a hard-earned milestone. Even so, worry creeps in as he wonders whether he still has enough to buy anything worthwhile. He carefully studies the blessing of the God of Growth, weighing its usefulness against other upgrades, then sets a bold goal for himself to collect 1,000 coins. Without warning, more coins burst into existence and scatter across the bed, making him jump in surprise. His phone vibrates with a strange, cryptic message. On the screen, a giant finger repeatedly slams down in a pixelated cave, failing again and again to crush a stubborn red mutant surrounded by swarming digital insects. The massive finger startles a wave of ants, sending them scattering in every direction. Ilshin squints at the display, sensing that something has changed. A red pixelated monster materializes deeper in the cavern, hinting at a looming boss battle. Excited, he taps furiously, triggering the next phase of the game. Suddenly, a tiny glowing red creature appears on his hand in the real world, making him recoil in shock. The monster dodges his attacks effortlessly, leaving him grinding his teeth in frustration. Determined not to lose, he boldly declares that he will prove his skills, as if challenging a rhythm game. Moments later, he crouches down, staring at a wallet, a fallen coin, and a mysterious ID card scattered on the floor. His phone flashes with alarming news, and sweat beads on his face as he realizes he has failed at something crucial. Back in the game, a massive red ant moves with terrifying speed, clashing against smaller black ants in the cavern. Ilshin watches the screen in growing unease as the ominous red figure dominates the battlefield. Lines of black ant-like creatures gather across a strange rocky landscape, confronting the monstrous red enemy. Consumed by anger, Ilshin screams at his phone, threatening destruction. A system message announces that number 801 has been crushed to death as golden coins rain down. Another sign declares that the nameless god's karma has surpassed 800, while shadowy figures gather nearby. A new message informs him that he needs 200 more karma to earn a powerful title, promising a reward once achieved. Exhausted, he falls asleep, clutching his phone, tossing and turning, as system alerts flash in the darkness. Notifications activate the blind god's eyes again, followed by another warning about a missed offering for nameless god number 404. The world abruptly shifts. A film projector flickers to life, flooding a dark room with light. Ilshin finds himself sitting alone in an empty movie theater. Startled, he calls out, but no one answers. Confused and disoriented, he struggles to understand where he is. A sudden burst of light blinds him, and a horrifying realization crashes into his mind. He sits in silence, deep in thought, until another realization freezes him in place. The scene transforms into a desolate desert, where a lone figure kneels under the overwhelming power of the Black Tribe god. A wounded warrior staggers across the sand, reflecting on the ruthless sacrifices made by the enemy, and vowing to warn allies before it is too late. The land reveals twisted trees and barren earth as a cloaked figure approaches a cracked cave entrance. Inside, demonic faces with glowing eyes twist into cruel grins as blood drips onto engraved stone, activating ancient symbols. Insect-like creatures stagger through sunlit caverns while hands stab into cocooned beings, releasing streams of purple liquid. Severed heads are pressed into bowls of blood as monstrous mouths descend to devour trembling captives, their jagged teeth snapping shut with terrifying force. Dark shadows crawl across stone walls as clawed creatures enter feeding chambers, where insect warriors feast in silence. A monstrous mob with glowing red eyes gathers, radiating pure menace. One beast grips an unconscious human by the head while another stammers out a report that captives escaped and survived a powerful enemy. Urgent warnings echo through the cavern before a cloaked figure arrives, sending the creatures shrinking back in fear. Demonic skulls mock the fallen, while a towering figure with blazing eyes silences the crowd with a single shout. Beneath a blackened sky, an army of insect warriors assembles. A powerful creature kneels before a massive sword, addressing a shaman in the shadows. Whispers spread of a great demon's awakening, and fear ripples through the ranks. When the truth is revealed, the monstrous beings bow in submission. A furious leader declares the land belongs to the emperor, and orders the destruction of the Black Tribe god. A demon's grin spreads as it realizes its enemy has been deceived. Walls explode outward as a massive demon bursts through, clutching its head, eyes burning red. Nature magic surges from a warrior's staff, striking the demon, only for glowing energy to instantly heal its wounds. An insect commander roars orders as the army charges forward. A lone warrior steps ahead, vowing to defeat the demon alone, while swarms of insect soldiers rush beside him. From the opposite side, Reed demons surge forward, screaming for blood. Ilshin jolts upright in bed, shaking and drenched in sweat. Morning light spills across the room as he breathes heavily, trying to steady himself. He mutters in confusion, wondering whether he dreamed of being an ant or if the ant dreamed of being him. Before he can think further, invasion alerts flood his phone. A new enemy appears on the screen, instantly irritating him. Flames flare dramatically in the game, as Ilshin grips his phone and shouts that he will defeat it no matter what. Then a chilling message appears, glowing ominously on the screen, hinting that something far worse is about to begin. The protagonist suddenly recognizes the bearded ant from his dream among the gathering in the cavern. Fear floods his face as the memory crashes back into him, eyes widening in shock. At the same moment, his phone erupts in blinding light, jolting him upright in bed. Heart racing, he frantically checks the screen for urgent updates. In a flash, the vision returns. He sees himself lying on the ground, stunned and bleeding after being caught off guard by a brutal attack. Blue energy explodes across the battlefield, as a lone figure stands firm against armored enemies. A menacing presence gathers power, releasing a massive beam that slams downward and forces monstrous foes back. At sunset, the young man in the tracksuit screams in agony as violent energy swirls around him. Nearby, 3 armored insect warriors celebrate triumphantly after their sage subdues an evil god, cheering in anticipation of the emperor's reward. One cruel creature offers mocking congratulations, leaving its target frozen in disbelief. Suddenly panic spreads as someone screams for everyone to run, while a terrifying light descends from above. Lightning crashes into enemy ranks, tearing chaos through the battlefield. More creatures fall from the sky as the group braces for destruction. A monstrous figure writhes in pain as red lightning engulfs it, screaming for others to escape. Blood sprays as someone is struck without warning. A massive blow crushes number 404 instantly, followed by another foot slamming down on number 808, ending their life just as quickly. Consumed by rage, the young man smashes his fist into the ground, releasing a violent surge of power. Through bloodied vision, he watches a system message announce number 809's death. Clutching his wounded side, he staggers through smoke and debris, shielding his phone as another attack rips through the area. Then a cold system message appears. He has acquired the Evil God title. Shock freezes him as pain drops him to his knees. Still trembling, he checks his phone to make sure it survived the chaos. In the next instant, he wakes up in his room, startled to find glowing gold coins scattered around him. Sweat beads on his face as he notices karma on the screen climbing rapidly. It hits 1000. A message announces the Evil God title once again, followed by another system notice, unlocking the Cruel Slaughterer title, increasing his battle luck due to high karma. Stunned, he realizes the requirement had been 1000 or more. Laughing in disbelief, Ilshin sits atop a mountain of gold coins, boldly declaring he can live without the law. The coins begin to swirl and fuse together, forming a single gleaming ring atop the pile. His breath catches as he picks it up, examining the glowing object closely. Curious, he lifts it to his nose and inhales. A refreshing scent floods his senses, clearing his exhausted mind. Slowly, he slips the ring onto his finger. Light surges across his hand, and warmth spreads through his body. In seconds, his fatigue vanishes completely, leaving him feeling stronger and sharper than ever before. Before he can celebrate, his cracked phone blares another alarm. The Eye of the Blind God activates automatically, appraising the ring. A new notification appears. Confused but intrigued, Ilshin learns it is the Ring of the Druid, granting elemental power. He tests it on a small object, eyes widening at the immediate result. Excitement builds as he begins practicing in his room, repeatedly activating the Eye of the Blind God to explore its abilities. The scene shifts dramatically. A spotlight highlights his everyday life, a television nearly paid off, a notebook with months left on its installment plan, and his worn-out bed that clearly needs replacing. Standing in the sunlit room, Ilshin wipes sweat from his face as reality crashes down on him. He rushes to the door trying to stop someone from leaving, then stares at his glowing ring in disbelief. Frustration surges as he remembers his G-class assignment. Clenching his fist with renewed resolve, he heads back to the Paranormal Phenomena Center, determined to change his fate. A system panel flashes up, revealing private health information. Nearby, a pregnant woman nervously checks her phone, unaware she is being observed. A man freezes in horror as his personal medical data appears in public view. Ilshin jolts upright, shaken by what he has just witnessed. His gaze drifts across the room, and lands on a glowing heroic poster promising a savior of the world. As a young girl stands before it, a data screen scans her, listing her age along with a strange tingling sensation. Ilshin senses something wrong. Among the crowd, a hidden name appears on the mysterious display. The girl stiffens as shocking information reaches her. Before she can walk away, Ilshin leaps up and rushes toward her, stretching out his hand to stop her. Fear tightens his chest as memories of everything he has seen surge back in a rush. A young woman steps forward beneath harsh, brilliant lighting, instantly commanding the attention of everyone in the room. Someone nervously asks whether others feel a strange tingling sensation as glowing energy fills the air. A digital screen flickers to life, introducing Sony, a thrilled 19-year-old girl standing at the center of it all. Before anyone can react, Ilshin rushes forward, clutching a rolled-up sheet of paper. A hand shoots out to stop Sony as she tries to leave, and Ilshin lunges after her, shouting desperately for her not to follow her curiosity. A nervous student hesitates nearby, unsure what to do. A boy awkwardly tries to get her attention, only for her to glance back in surprise and ask if someone is feeling excited. The scene shifts to a bright city, under a clear blue sky. Ilshin cheerfully calls to arrange a meeting with his niece, only to erupt in protest moments later, angrily arguing about being called a loafer just because he likes money. He ends the call in frustration on a crowded sidewalk, then exhales slowly, relieved that he passed the re-inspection, though uncertainty still weighs on his future. Soon he walks into a quiet park where long shadows stretch across sunlit steps. A young girl looks up at him in surprise, asking if he is really her uncle. His face flushes as he marvels at how adorable she is, though dark thoughts briefly surface about a painful past. A somber conversation follows about troubling updates, leaving him distressed with his head in his hands. The girl tilts her head and asks what update means, unfamiliar with the word. Trying to lighten the mood, Ilshin pinches her cheeks playfully, making her yelp in shock. She glares furiously while he apologizes over and over, hovering nervously nearby as she sulks on the bench. Suddenly, the Eye of the Blind God activates on its own. An appraisal completes instantly, identifying the pouting child as his niece Ilian, who loves chocolate ice cream. Surprised, Ilshin blurts it out, then eagerly suggests getting some to cheer her up. Inside a small shop, a cheerful worker greets them. Ilian enthusiastically orders chocolate ice cream, and Ilshin agrees, only to freeze when he realizes he has to pay. Counting his coins nervously, he changes the order to just 1 scoop. The cashier stares as he offers the coins, carefully counting them, while Ilshin sweats. A tiny scoop is handed over. Ilshin protests, convinced he is being treated unfairly, then suddenly pulls out his remote control with confidence. With a dramatic glare, he thrusts his forefinger forward, as if activating a powerful technique. In the next moment, the stunned worker hands over a massive spiraling cone of ice cream, apologizing profusely. Satisfied, Ilshin leans in and happily eats while encouraging Ilian to enjoy hers too. She refuses to share her bite immediately, but soon relaxes beside him as the warm sunset settles over the peaceful city. The calm shatters when warning alerts flash across Ilshin's phone. He jerks upright on the bench, as a tense notification announces a powerful skill activation. Another message reveals that an unknown god's battle luck has surged dramatically. Before he can process it, a sinister voice echoes beneath a blood-red sky, declaring it will devour challenges and ascend as a true demon god. Alarms blare. Red lights flare among ruined streets, as a colossal demonic monster rises above the city skyline. Ilshin freezes in terror while a woman screams for everyone to run, struggling to hold back danger amid falling rubble. A lion-headed beast roars with earth-shaking fury. Ilshin shields another person as a blinding burst of light erupts behind them. Power ignites within his eye as he prepares to release hidden strength. Nearby, an electrified figure stands defiantly against the towering monster. The name of the creature spreads in fear: the Thorned Bull, an ancient being seeking divinity itself. Later that night, Ilshin stands alone on a bridge, staring over the quiet city while studying a digital profile. He learns that the Thorned Bull seeks godhood by consuming the unknown god, and realization strikes hard. The Godmaker incident had targeted him all along. Memories of desperate shouts to run echo in his mind. Images of the battlefield and the Thorned Bull's corpse surface, along with the chilling death messages. A reward notification appears, announcing trial completion, ability rank up, and a special authority unlocked in the God Store. Another message confirms he can now purchase a low-class God's authority for free. Shaking with anger and exhaustion, Ilshin glares at his phone. Blaming it for everything that has gone wrong, he storms to his balcony, raises his hand, and prepares to throw the device into the night below. Ilshin lifts his phone beneath the quiet night sky, frowning at something unexpected glowing across the screen. A chilling message flashes before his eyes, and shock ripples through him as memories rush back. Standing alone on the bridge, he calls out desperately for the saints, his voice swallowed by the darkness. Elsewhere, 2 armored figures brace themselves before a vine-covered entrance pulsing with ominous energy. Fear tightens their grip on their weapons as a violent red strike smashes into an ant warrior. Another creature collapses, begging for mercy while trembling in tears, clutching a staff as a monstrous enemy towers above with blinding radiance. In a dim cave lit by flickering candles, a hooded figure pleads desperately to save their tribe, while another stands frozen in terror. A massive clawed foot crashes into cracked earth, sending dust spiraling into the air. Soldiers close in, blocking every path of escape, as a monstrous insect lunges forward, its tongue snapping like a whip. A girl stares helplessly, tears pouring down her face, just as Ilshin's phone vibrates with an urgent request to rescue a small, desperate creature. Before he can react, a terrifying apparition forms in the air. 2 frightened figures cower nearby, while a tiny creature anxiously wonders aloud if she still looks the same as before. An armored insect raises a cleaver high to strike, but a small girl with blue antennae plants her feet and refuses to move. A towering beast declares she will be offered as tribute, while another monstrous form erupts from smoke screaming for the Emperor. Explosions of fire and lightning rip through the battlefield, hurling bodies aside in agony. Ilshin notices an unusually large ant displayed on his phone, just as golden coins spill out of the screen and clatter at his feet. Another message arrives, carrying the Holy Maiden's request to learn the true name of the nameless god. Stunned, Ilshin stops on the steps, staring at his phone as a new request appears. Moments later, a devoted follower begins worshipping him without warning. A system notification announces the acquisition of a divine title, Merciful Redeemer. His breath catches as he realizes he now holds both good and evil god titles at once. Another message follows, shifting his alignment from evil to neutral. Then comes a massive reward. 100,000 G-coins flood his balance, and Ilshin nearly drops his phone as the total jumps to over 100,000. He opens the glowing shop interface, heart racing as he scans the endless choices. Clenching his fist, he finally selects the blessing of the growing god.